Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. Well, hey friends, it's Thursday, which you know is podcast day. And today we have a new Turquoise Talk guest. Her name is Kate Walker. Really enjoyed our conversation. And let me tell you a little bit about Kate. She is an executive leadership and human resources expert and author. Kate has over 2 decades of senior level corporate human resources experience, serving as human resources director at global companies in marketing, gaming, and sports, including Nintendo, United States Tennis Association, Publicis, and TBWA. She made her corporate exit in 2021, which we talk about here on the episode, to start Kate Walker Executive Coaching. That is a full service consulting and coaching company that helps leaders build powerhouse skills that positively impact company culture and their bottom line. Kate is recognized for her contributions to team dynamics, leadership, business strategies, and mindset for business owners, team leaders, and people managers. She is known for her supportive, understanding, and encouraging approach to high-level mentorship of building and leading high-performing teams. Kate has been featured in Authority Magazine, SHRM's HR Magazine, Hive, and Ivy Executive. She has an upcoming book, seems to be a theme here on the podcast lately, interviewing lots of authors. It's called A Candid Conversation, Lessons in Life, Love, and Leadership. She seeks to inspire people closing a life chapter and redesigning their future through a journey of determination and self-awareness. It's both a memoir and a guide to reflection and empowerment. A Candid Conversation shares the advice and tools Kate wishes that she had while navigating a corporate exit, single parenthood, and entrepreneurship, so you too can find the success on your own terms. Kate seeks to inspire anyone looking to redesign their life to go on a journey of self-awareness. Such a great conversation, such a needed conversation, and I cannot wait for you to meet Kate. So without further ado, let's go. Well, welcome back, friends, to the Mompreneur Life Remix podcast. I'm your host, Martine Williams, and today we have another amazing Turquoise Talk guest, Kate Walker. So thank you so much, Kate, for coming on to the show.
Hi, Martine. Thank you.
I am really excited just to learn more about you and your journey and this A Candid Conversation, like to write that book. So can you kind of just share with us just a little bit about you first, your background, maybe why you became an entrepreneur, and what was really the driving force for writing this book?
Yes. Such a great question. So yes, I'm Kate Walker. Thank you for that kind introduction. I live out in California. I'm in the Bay Area, and I have been working in corporate life since my early 20s. I got out of college in San Diego, moved to LA, got into the music business, and was making, $5 an hour, something crazy back at that time. And was working with people that were driving luxury cars, the agents and all the people in the music industry. So I knew probably music industry wasn't for me. And then my travels took me north. Okay. And I found my way into a career in human resources, which I'd never heard of it before. But I grew to, I got into HR by way of a temp job. I'm like, well, this is interesting. I get to work with everybody in HR. Okay, this is kind of cool. But I knew in this temp job, I was at a temp job in a biotech firm. I knew that wasn't the right spot for me, kind of from a culture perspective. So I found my way into global advertising agencies, in which I worked in HR and global ad agencies for many years. So made my way, got onto the corporate track, did that for many years, worked my way up with the career trajectory. Met a guy and got married, had kids, and did that for a while. So I talk about these things in the book as well, the triumphs and the tragedies of my path. And I actually didn't leave I had fabulous corporate jobs, which I loved, but April 2021, I actually left corporate. I'd been planning for a while, but I left corporate April 2021 to go out and be on my own. And at that time, I felt like I had a lot of experience. I had a lot of know-how. I had a lot of just drive to do my own thing and be my own boss. And it does take a lot of accountability and all of those different things to be on your own. So decided at that point in my career, that point in my life, now's the time. My children were a little bit older as well. So made that leap. And I also, as you mentioned, wrote a book, which is a little bit insane, but I've been writing a book on and off for a few years. And the book was a result of journal entries. I'd been keeping journals for many years, and especially journals during a relationship I was in, my marriage. So when he was a boyfriend, the husband, and then unfortunately as, divorced people, and thought, at the time, this is many years ago, I thought that I might write a cautionary tale for women to avoid these pitfalls for these kind of guys. And as I got with the publisher, which was about 18 months ago, really I decided before I needed to reframe. I needed to reframe that story. And I had reframed that story in my own life, the way I was operating and conducting myself. But the book then evolved into a lot of stories about my life, about this particular relationship. And as I was writing the book, I thought, I've got to go back in time and figure out, why did I make these decisions in the first place? I had to go back to my youth and explore my childhood and my upbringing and school and athletics and all of those different things to see, well, how did I get shaped in my personality? Why am I making these decisions? I also talk in the book about just relationships as far as friendships. Why was I putting up with friendships that were not feeling very reciprocal? So the book is quite vulnerable. I'm in the pre-reader phase now, and I have people saying, wow, this is making me reflect on my decision making as well and my relationship. So that is just absolutely insane to me, that what I wrote that feels so vulnerable. And also when you're in the process of writing a book, you're like, this just stinks. Just throw it in the trash. Like, I'm done with this. This is horrible. So
I think that's why I know I want to write a book, but I'm like, I don't want to feel that. They say if you're willing to feel anything, you're willing to do anything. And I think that what you just said is kind of like, that's why I'm waiting and putting, because I have journals that I've been journaling in really, really rough seasons of my life too, transitioning career. And I'm like, I know there's a book in there somewhere. There's probably multiple books.
There are probably multiple books.
But to go back, I haven't even let myself go back and read any of those entries yet, because I'm like, oh, do I want to feel that?
It is a feeling. It does spark a lot of emotion, a deep emotion. And I did have to make the decision. No, this is going out. We're doing it. Yeah. And I have to get in my mindset. This is intended to be in service to people that may have experienced some of the same things, or they don't want to walk alone, or they want to. I really and truly hope it inspires and empowers women. Or I've heard from a lot of the pre-readers, it's prompted a lot of reflection, self-reflection. I have a pre-reader who wants to buy copies of the book to give to her 18-year-old daughter and her friends, because she feels like these will be important messages about decision making. And not only now, but she said, I want them to read it in 3 years, 5 years, just to go back and ask some of those self-reflective questions. So that's the book. Yes, A Candid Conversation, Lessons in Life, Love, and Leadership, which is out in 20 days.
That is wild.
October 24th. Yeah, I know we're talking here today on October 4th.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. And I know it's a labor of love, I don't know, because I haven't done it, but I know several friends that have either just finished a book, or, they're on book number 4, book number 5.
Wow.
And it's just a process, and again, when it's a vulnerable book like what yours is, and you're kind of putting yourself out there, but kudos to you, because I think everyone has a story, and we all go through things. My personal opinion is that our past struggles are our present purposes, right? To encourage and empower and impact others, but only if you're willing to share it.
Only if you're willing to share it. I know. And, it's like, who am I? Who am I to write a book? I mean, so
that imposter shows up, doesn't it?
100% it shows up. Who am I, or who's my story, or who really cares? So, but then you think, no, hold on a minute. If it can resonate with one person and make an impact for one person, then it was worth it. So I have to keep going back to, I have to keep getting in my mindset work.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, congrats on that. So a lot of things I talk about on this podcast is, the whole theme of Mompreneur Life Remixed is kind of remixing our priorities and how we do mompreneur life and how we, get out of that hustle culture that I feel like has become such an epidemic. Like you have to hustle and sacrifice yourself and your health and your family and everything on that altar of success. And I know that you kind of work through that too. And you talk about that. So can you share a little bit about what that looks like to kind of shift from hustle mindset to, abundance mindset?
Yes. And it's so interesting because I often feel like women, or anybody for that matter, feels like we have to go out and pay our dues. We've got to go pay our dues. We've got to do the hard work. We've got to hustle. We've got to grind. We've got to work long hours. We've got to sign our kids up for 100 different sports, whatever. We have to really like grind it and pay our dues. So I was in that mindset as well, just trying to keep up with everything and trying to do all the things. And then it becomes very exhausting. And then you really, you're living your life and you think it's a good life. I felt like my life was good, very, very busy and stretched. But then there comes a point where it's like, hold on a minute, we have to reprioritize. Yeah. And I would have to say that the pandemic to an extent helped me reprioritize, because I was and I knew at that point I was starting to get my things ready to leave corporate, but I'd been in a corporate job that had a very, very demanding commute that really led to just extreme burnout. I know one of your topics here on the podcast is burnout. And I had this commute. It wasn't the job that was burning me out. It was the commute. And the pandemic brought me home. And that was such a relief. Just I could work from my computer and I could take 20 steps to my, work office and start working. So that was really a big shift for me, which also led to a big shift in, all right, like let's redesign the workday. Let's redesign not needing to go out and drive, 50 miles to the job. So that was a really big milestone for me. And then I think it's about designing your day and establishing the boundaries. And I'm at a point now in my career, how I design it, where I try to work during a certain time frame of the day. Well, first of all, I get my son ready for school in the morning. And when I was doing the hustle and the grind, that's not something I was as we're rushing, trying to get out the door. I'm trying to get out to work. So now it's just such a beautiful treat. I can take a little more time to get him out the door, log on to my thing, log off at the end of the day, go to the gym or do a workout. So it's trying to be really, for me, slowing down. Yeah. That was really what I needed to do, was slow it down and not be going 20 different places and racing the clock.
Well, and that's what COVID, the pandemic, really forced us all to do, was to slow down, right? Yes, and it just, when you're slowing down, it forces you to kind of self-reflect and forces you to think, okay, is this really where I want to be spending my time? Am I really having the impact that I feel called to have with my story or my gifts and my strengths and my talents? And wouldn't you agree? It kind of starts also with the mindset, like to understand that hustle is not necessarily the way. It might be for some, but it's not the only way to grow a successful business, is just to hustle all the time. You have to have that shift in your mindset that I can be both and. I can be a great mom and a great wife and a great business owner, but I don't have to sacrifice everything for it. Yes. And I think it does take making that decision for yourself. Like, is this something I want to do? Is this something I want to be mindful to make the decisions to do? So it is, for me, I did have to slow down and say, okay, let's hold on a minute. Let's think about how I want to conduct my business, how I want to conduct my schedule, how I want to conduct my day. And it can be easy to get into just the path of least resistance and running and going and grinding, because it's just so normal, especially I think in the United States and in the big cities, different cities across the nation. Yeah. We just do it. Yeah. I was out driving maybe even yesterday, and it was maybe 5 p.m. and it's just so busy and people cutting each other off. Like, what was happening? It's just so, people are just so frantic out there. Yeah. So it is maybe a bit of an epidemic. So I think it is making those intentional choices and being mindful about, how do I want to design my day? How do I want to get all the things done? Do I want to sign up for this thing? No, because it's going to be just a little too taxing for me. I'm going to skip that for now. So it is, it's about intentional decision making. Yeah. And it does require that slowdown, which most of us that are very ambitious and very driven, like the slowdown almost feels uncomfortable, right? Because we're like, I just got to keep chasing that ball. And one day I'll get back to that. And I talk about that a lot on this podcast. It's not one day, because that one day never comes. it's day one. Like you get to decide today is day one that I'm no longer going to think that way. I'm no longer going to do those things. I'm not going to just go and do what everybody else is doing. I'm going to decide for me and my family, but it does require that slowdown that is so uncomfortable. So if someone's listening, like just know it's not going to be comfortable to do this work.
It's not comfortable.
You're going to come up with lots of resistance and lots of things are going to try and get in that way, but it's the important work to do because that's the only way you can get to that next level.
Absolutely. And I would say for me, because I am that ambitious person and I'm going to do the checklist because that's a habit for me. It's an ingrained habit. I've been doing it for so long. It feels comfortable to do that. So for me, I like to have a calendar where I know what I need to be doing through the day. That's a good checkpoint. I also keep just old school kind of paper and pen checklists where I know, okay, did I get these things done today? If I know I have a calendar and a checklist, that can give me a little bit more ease in my day, that I know what I need to do. It's there. I haven't missed anything. But it's funny because when you really do start to intentionally slow down and you've got the checklist and you've done the basics. For me, I've had times where I think everything is done. My checklists are done. I've nowhere to go. And this feels so weird. It's like that's quiet feels very uncomfortable. It's like, no. This is okay.
Yeah. This is supposed to be.
Get used to it. Yes.
Yeah. This is supposed to be. I was having one of my coaching clients the other day. She's kind of working through this. Like, she's like, she just built this house and it's, she's worked so hard to have the income that she has, to have the things that she has. And she's like, I just need to create this space. But like, I have assistants and I have help, but then I have this blank, like you said, this blank space and I don't know what to do with that. And there's so many women that I talk to that they get the help they need. I finally get them to do that. And then they have this free space in their calendar and they're like, what do I do with that?
Yes.
They don't know what they even enjoy doing anymore because they've been so much in that hustle and grind and doing so many things for other people. So have you found yourself in that same spot and like, did you have to kind of relearn, like, this is what's fun for me, or these are some things I want to do?
Yes. And I feel like I'm still learning that too. And I've been reading some articles lately from Gisele Bündchen, who's the supermodel, who is, I think, experiencing a little bit of the same thing. And that she was raising young children and getting through the marriage and then getting through the divorce. And she's in now a season of not just thriving, but as she called it, living. Like I'm learning to live. I'm learning to go have fun. I've got to go have fun and live my life. So I think the same is true. And I think sometimes you do have to think about, well, what does that look like for me? What is fun for me? You forget. We forget, especially as moms and mompreneurs. The focus is on the children, the family, the work, which can be for me. I find my work. I like it. I find purpose and joy in it. So it's fun to do, but sometimes it's like, no, let's go unplug and let's go see something else.
Yeah. I was at a networking event last week and the speaker was from a local bookstore and she, of course, was showcasing all of these fictional books. And I have tried so hard to read fictional books, but my brain is like, if it doesn't promote like self-help or promote, personal and professional development, it just feels like a waste of time to me. And the girl at the table was, she reads nothing but fiction. She's like, it's called brain candy and your brain needs it.
Yes.
Your brain needs a break. And I'm like, I really have tried. But for some of you, maybe it's just that. Like, I think we overcomplicate too, how we choose to make ourselves a priority. We think we have to have a whole weekend away with the girlfriends, or we have to spend, 2 hours working on something, but maybe it's just like 15 minutes in the morning reading from your favorite book, whether it's nonfiction or fiction.
Yes. I have a lounge chairs outside of my home. And sometimes I just go and sit on the chair and close my eyes or whatever, take a moment. And it's like, I feel like, no, I got to get back in. I've got to go do things. No, we're just taking 15. We're going to just slow it down, calm it down, take a little break. So I agree. It doesn't have to be these long extended periods of time. It can be short. Sometimes I try to take a 5-minute little quick meditation just to slow it down, calm my nervous system down, reset.
Yeah.
It helps.
I mean, the most important thing is that you do something, and just start. Like, don't overcomplicate that process. Don't feel bad. A lot of times we start shaming ourselves. Like, well, I should know, I'm a grown woman. I should know what I like to do for fun. But if that's not been your focus or you haven't been intentional about it, it's really easy to forget.
It is
really easy to sit there on your couch and be like, who is this person when you look in the mirror? It's really easy to get there. So don't beat yourself up about it. Just I always tell my clients, like, think back to when you were a child. Like, what were some of the things you loved doing? If you liked playing
Yes.
kitchen when you were a little girl, you probably would like to go to a cooking class. Maybe that's not
Yes.
me. That's not me.
Yes.
I have
Yes.
some people that cleaning is like their therapy. That's fun for them. I'm like, that's not
Okay.
me either. I want to go sit on the beach or I want to go for a walk, but it's just find what's best for you.
It is. It's like what really, really lights you up. And I'm thinking of a story. I was at Disneyland back in late April, and I hadn't taken a little vacation or break in a while. And I got off of the ride. What is it? Space Mountain, where you zoom around in the dark. It's a roller coaster. I got off the ride. I was like giddy and smiling. I'm like, and just feeling so joyful. I thought, gosh, I wish I could go on this roller coaster every day. This is really fun. It just makes me feel like a kid.
Yes.
And that feeling is great. So I think if we can tap into that a little bit, then that's fantastic. So yeah, I agree. Sometimes you do have to sit down and think, what is fun for me? What brings me joy? And not putting too much pressure on it.
And just investigate it, just like you investigate anything else. Like, just be curious about it. And like, I'm going to try that. That didn't work, or I liked that, or I didn't like that, just like you would with anything else. And just like you would tell your own children, and when they're trying to figure out what their thing is, if it's athletics or if it's tech or whatever it is, like you don't tell them just to quit at the first thing, right? You tell them like, let's try something else. Let's try something else because it's important. We teach our kids the same things we should be teaching ourselves.
Yeah,
when it comes to this,
not true.
Like go play. How many times we tell our kids, go play, go use your imagination, go do these things. And then we don't do them for ourselves.
Yes. Yes. I also think too, as you're trying things, for example, I go to a gym right now. It's a structured class, but I don't have a community there, which I wasn't expecting when I went there. I just was going to work out, but now there are people I know when I go there. I know the instructors. So that feels good for me. That feels fun. So I think it's also finding communities of like-minded people that are doing some things that you want to do. So I think that there's also an added payoff if you're going to find a group of people that like to do what you like to do, a walking group. It could be anything.
And there's tons of them. Like you could just go to meetup.com or one of those other event things. And there's literally a meetup for everything. Scrapbooking, coupon cutting. I mean, there's literally a community for everything. Yes. So there's really no reason for us not to get plugged in somewhere. I don't care if you're brand new to the area. You can go on the website and find something on Meetup, or one of those other networking
groups. That's an even better idea. If you're new to an area, that's a fantastic idea. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, friend. So you have been trying to make some shifts this year. Maybe you set some resolutions and you're just feeling stuck. You don't feel like you're making progress, or you're just not sure what to do. And you've heard me say this before, but being stuck is a mindset, not a position. And this is where a coach comes in to support you. Because here's what I know to be true about you, friend. If you could have done it alone, you would have already done it, period. And as a life coach and a certified PDP professional, I specialize in using a research-based personality and performance survey called the ProScan to illuminate how your unique personality and natural strengths, your work and life environments are influencing real-time performance. So here's what you need to do. Go to the link in the show notes and book your free clarity call to learn more about how I can support you in your goals. I can't wait to illuminate your strengths, cultivate your confidence, and elevate your life. So you mentioned earlier burnout, and you said that it came from, just that commute. And, I love to talk about this on the podcast too. And I know for some, it shows up in ways like just lack of inspiration. And for others, it's a physical feeling when they get burnout. Can you kind of share with the audience how it felt for you? And then how did you work your way out of it?
Yes. So the commute was, I had to do it. I had to get to this office. I had to make the drive. And it was I don't even know, 40 miles each way. It was really long. Maybe it was longer, 45 miles. I think I intentionally didn't look up how many miles it was because it was so just traumatizing. And I often would think if I put a dash cam or whatever, a dash cam on my car and showed someone my route, how I get from here and then to the freeway and then that, and then to that freeway and then over the bridge, people be like, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy what you're doing.
Yeah.
But when I got to the office, I loved my coworkers. I loved what I was doing. So that made it worth the while, I guess, to do this commute. But it was the thing is, it's like I had to do it. So I had to program myself in a way. I get in the car, we turn on the car, we then do this thing, we go drive there, and it's going to take a lot of time. And then we're going to be stuck in traffic, but we do it. So I think there's also that part of it. It wasn't optional.
Right.
For at least I didn't make it optional. I made it as like, you have to do this. We have to get to the office. You have to do this. So it just really almost gave me a little bit of PTSD when I came home from COVID. Everybody got sent home and I was just had the chance to exhale, but it was so like the programming that just the having to do this was so, it just like, yeah, it is a feeling of there's a feeling of dread that comes with it. There's a feeling of angst that comes with it. There's a feeling of I have to do this. So there was a lot there, a lot of emotion and a lot of just commitment having to do it. So that took me a while to unwind from coming off the road, coming off that commute. So that really added to, that was a gigantic, I mean, and I did it for 7 years. It was a 7-year kind of burnout situation. Yeah. And in hindsight, it's like, okay, should I have left that role earlier to get off the road? I mean, it's hindsight's 2020. I love the job and I love the people so much that kept me going, but the level of burnout, I don't think I fully realized the depth of it until I was done with it, where I thought, whoa, that's really, that did a number on me but again, I had to do it. Program yourself. You get in the car, you just do it. So that's something I think I'm finally, I've finally let the whole go, but it was really, it is a physical feeling for sure.
Yeah. I remember when I transitioned out of my previous career into full-time coaching and speaking. And like you said, I didn't realize, because I've been teaching and coaching about burnout even before I left that career. And so I, in my mind, I'm like, I'm good. Like I'm doing good. And then when I left and I really felt called to just a season of rest and reflection and kind of preparation for whatever was next, I felt almost like, and when I was getting to the end of that rest, I almost felt like a trauma response to, I don't want to go back to that pace. And so it almost kept me from launching back into a business, because I'm like, I don't want to go back to that. And it was just, I didn't realize how hard and how long I had been performing. I mean, my dad had 2 restaurants, so I've been working since I was able to work. I've never not worked. And so to have that go on for as long as it did, and then to the season of, I call it active rest, because I was still working, but I wasn't, really working hard. You don't realize it until you stop.
Absolutely.
Have that pause, just how it feels. And then to work through, like you said, kind of that trauma response to, I don't want to go back to that. Now that I've gotten out of it, like, I don't want to get back in it. It's kind of like when you get out of a bad relationship, you don't want to get back in it. So you're traumatized to even have a conversation with another person, because you're like, I don't want to go back. But you can go back and have a better experience.
Absolutely. Well, and I love how you took the season of rest, and I'm sure that you had a lot of reflection about, okay, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. Let's start to move closer to what I want. Yes. And it does take time and thought to do those things. And again, us busy program people, it's sometimes hard to slow down and do that, but it really is helpful. I speak from my own experience. Taking that time and that thought can be really transformative.
I didn't ask you this in the beginning. How old are your kids now?
So I have a 17-year-old son who's a senior in high school, and then a 20-year-old son who's a junior in college.
Okay. Well, we're kind of close. I just launched my first child into college. So he's 18 and boy, and my second son is a sophomore in high school. So,
okay.
I'm in the season where they don't need me as much, right? But I want them more.
Whereas
when they're little, you're like, can you just go sit down over there and give me 5 minutes? Now I'm like, can you give me 30? Can you give me an hour? Can you just give me this hug?
I know.
So there's different seasons that require different thoughts also, and different levels of working your business. And when you have the flexibility that you now have, that when you were working for corporate, you were under their schedule.
Yes, that's right.
And now you're creating your own schedule. And sometimes that can also be a hard dynamic to figure out, because like you said, it requires a lot of accountability.
Yes.
So what can you share with the audience? Like, what does your typical day look like right now? Like, how do you organize your day?
Yes. I mean, I wake up usually in like the 6 o'clock hour, and I start getting my son ready for school in the 7 o'clock hour. I still, I'm cherishing these final days with him before he goes off to college. So I make his lunch and I make his breakfast, which he could totally do on his own. I'm being a little, kind of mothering him, if you will, but just enjoying that, nurturing that, and then getting him out the door to school. And then I might go take a walk or something just to get the blood pumping a little bit, not too rigorous of a walk, just a short walk. And then I will typically log on to my computer around 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., just kind of leisurely. I try not to set my first meetings of the day until maybe 9 a.m. local time. And then I try to wrap up my meetings around 3 p.m. so that I can be present for when my son gets home from school, even though he's just flybys dropping by. And then in the afternoons, I try to go for either a long walk or go to the gym. And that is that's a non-negotiable, even on days where you have had the calls or the Zooms and the coaching meetings, and you are feeling, for me, it is a physical feeling of feeling a little bit, it's just natural, I think, just when you're on and you're on point. So sometimes even feeling a little drained at the end of the day, but not horrible, but still saying, you know what, I'm not really in the mood, kind of feeling low energy, but we're going to the gym anyway. We're going to do it. You're going to get in your gym clothes. You're going to get in the car and you're going to go. So yeah, those are some things that are non-negotiables, just to stay active and just to, keep myself accountable. Then come home, typically have dinner with my son, maybe help him with, right now he's in college application time. So doing college applications with him, that's a whole process. Mine back in the day were much easier.
Much easier. It's such a process. And you're kind of having to help them with their emotions of senior year and all the kind of the last, the last, and then some of the first that are getting ready to come up. I mean, last year, I felt like it went by so fast, Lucas's senior year. And I was very intentional, as I'm sure you are, because this is your second time around doing this, like cherishing every moment, like you said, making the lunches and the breakfast. I mean, there were things I did last year for my senior that I didn't do for years prior, because I'm like, he's old enough to do these things. But it's just kind of wild how that comes back. You're like, oh, this is the last lunch I'm ever going to make for him. That is so not true, but it's in your head, you feel those things.
It's very surreal. It's very surreal. Yes. And so I'm up in Northern California, and my older son is down in Southern California. I think my younger son will want to go down to Southern California too. So that's also a new season that's coming up for me is, I'm divorced. I don't have a partner right now. So will I go down there too? Am I going to make a big life change? So those are considerations I'm making now too, is like, what does that chapter look like? The empty nest chapter, and where will the nest be?
Right. So can you share some specific experiences where, like, aligning your decisions with your core values, like how that kind of fulfilled certain things as you went through that transition? And there's someone listening that feels like a transition is coming, or they're ready to make that transition. And maybe they knew it during the pandemic, but now they're like, okay, now I'm really ready to do it. Like, how can you help them align what the decision is? Because we live in decision fatigue, and we live in the land of indecision. Like, should I, or should I, or should I? And for me, I'm like, just take one step and see what happens.
Take one step. Yeah. Just take one step. Yes. There's actually, and this is in my book as well. And it's called the Values Audit List. And I actually got it it's called the Leadership Challenge, which is a book. Okay. And the Leadership Challenge has many different programs or different things, workshops, I guess is what I'm looking for, different offshoot workshops. And many, many years ago in corporate, we did the Leadership Challenge, and we had to sit in groups and do a values audit. And we had maybe 75 different values to choose from. It's like, okay, let's rank them. And let's see, what are your 10 very most important values? What are maybe not so important? And so we had to put them in categories. I also write about this in the book, that one of my cards, this is maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, was freedom. And I chose the freedom card for many different reasons. One was like, hey, let freedom ring. Like, wow, freedom is important just as a whole concept. But then it was also, my freedom. I felt like my freedom was also important. And we had to go around the table and share our maybe 5 top key values at that point in time. And as people were going around the table, they had values that were a little bit different, and no one had the value of freedom. So I started to feel really silly. So freedom, people are going to think I'm just like nutty or something. Like, I would have a freedom card. So I ditched the card. I ditched the card. Yeah. I did not share that value. And now, now that I'm more open, and it's like, owning my stuff, freedom is at the top of the list. And that is that is freedom for me to make choices, to decide where I want to go, what I want to do, just the freedom of my schedule, freedom of how I work my business. So I think for me, it's really, when I'm making decisions now, it's like, does this align to kind of feeling free with the decision? Time is another value for me. Like, how am I using my time? Okay. I had a client that asked me to drive 50 miles to go to a meeting. And I had to dig in a little, like I'm usually a yes person. I want to make sure I'm satisfying people and being a good girl, all that. That's, we're working through that. But so I had to ask more questions. What is the meeting about? What are we there to accomplish? What is the end goal? And I couldn't really see the point of meeting in person. So I thought, does this kind of meet my freedom value? No, definitely not. Is it maximizing my time? No. So I said no to this meeting. I declined it. And that's not something I would have done a while ago. So those are things I have to now think about a little more intentionally. Or are these decisions aligning with my values? So I think that that's something that women can do, is just sit down and think, like, what is like, and like you say, we have different seasons. Yeah. So maybe claiming freedom, I wasn't in the right season to do it 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but now I'm in the season where it's like, that feels good for me. I like that. I want to live in that. I can't live in it all the time, but as much as I can. So I think that trying to figure out what really, again, I have to use the word values. What are those core values that you really want to stay anchored to and make decisions, base your decisions off of?
Well, and this is the work that a lot of people just don't do. They don't take the time to slow down and self-reflect and figure out, what is it that I actually even want to do? You know, like the client that I'm working with, and she's going to have all this free time. Like, what do you want? And she just does not know, right? Or she doesn't know what her priority is. So if everything's a priority, then nothing really is. And so you just end up reacting all day. You know, and when you were talking about that exercise y'all were doing at work, I just pictured everybody in that room. I'm such a visual person. And I was picturing people pulling these cards and looking at them and thinking, well, I might be the only one who feels this way, so I'm just going to put that back.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Because they're afraid of what other people are going to think, or they don't know what their values are. And so they're like, maybe this is what everybody else will say, so that'll be most comfortable for me to talk about.
That's exactly right.
Which is not the right way to do it. Like, spend some time with yourself and figure out. That way you can make informed, intentional decisions with your time, with your energy, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual energy. All of that cannot be done properly for you if you're looking at what everybody else is doing, because you haven't figured out for you what's right.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, for me, I obviously had to take that exercise home and redo it and think, okay, let me be honest with myself and not have to hide cards because I'm embarrassed, or it won't be the right card in the workplace with other hustling people. So let me get real with myself. And again, that freedom card didn't really come up to the top of the deck and me speak it out loud until I was leaving corporate and thought, this really is my value. I want to put it at the top. So I agree. We have to take the time to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah. And it probably was a deep value for you in that room.
It was.
You just didn't want to say it out loud.
I did not want to say it out loud.
You did not want to say it out loud. And, you know, the work that I do with my one-on-one clients, we actually can, from their personality and performance assessment they do, it shows them what their unique motivators are. And so once they pull these 4 words out of a list of, I don't know, probably 20 or 30 different words and phrases, I have them define what that means, because freedom for you could mean something completely different for me.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. But you have to be able to pull these things out and give it thought. And every time they look at the list and it takes them a while. Right. And maybe they need it. I'm like, you can take this home. You don't have to do this right now, but I do want you to do this because it's important to know what is uniquely motivating for you.
Yes. And like we've talked about, it's like when you've been programmed to hustle and you got to show up to work and you got to do the thing, you got to stay till 5, you got to stay till 6, you're raising the kids. We don't have time to really think about what's really deeply important. So, and there are some things that are really deeply important that you may not be able to act on right away because of family obligations or health obligations, other things, but at least you can claim it or try it on a little bit, think about it, put it on the list. And maybe it's something that you can't act on now, but it's something that maybe 2 years out, you could act on.
Yeah. So, or you could just take one step. It may not be the full step, right? Just take one step in that direction. If you know that's a motivator for you or what you want, just take one step in that direction.
Taking one step could even include researching on the internet, like looking at, I want to move to a new city. Okay, let me look at different places to live. Let me go on the websites and see what's available. Let me see what's out there. It's just small things. We don't have to make a commitment, but yes, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know your book is coming out, and that's probably the most exciting thing that you have going on right now. Is there anything else that you're just really excited about in your business or your personal life that you want to share?
The book is definitely up there because this is brand new. I feel like I'm being launched out of a cannon. It's really wild and crazy and new and vulnerable and scary. And like I've mentioned, I've got pre-readers reading the book, and some of them I know, and they've been texting me, sharing their feedback, which is just, I've had to go and cry in the bathroom and then clean on makeup because I'm like, wow, I've been so just entrenched in writing and editing, and it just goes on and on and on. So when it's actually out there and people are reacting to it, it's incredible. It's insane. Yeah. So I just feel very humbled about where that is. So that's the biggest project that's going to be going on for a few more months now. And then, like I mentioned, I'm going to be graduating my son from high school in May of next year. And then the other big thing will be trying to figure out, where do I go? Do I make a move, a physical, geographic move to Southern California? What's my next move? So those are two pretty big things for me in the coming months. Yes,
they are. And we're going to put a link to the book in the show notes and all the ways that they can connect with you. Is there one like social place, media place that you hang out the most? They wanted to connect with you on social?
Yeah. So I would say Instagram at the Kate Walker. I'm a little more kind of playful on Instagram. I'm also over on LinkedIn, which is a little more business oriented. I'm at Kate Walker, SPHR. That's my HR certification. Kate Walker, SPHR. So those two places are where I am online. My website, katewalker.com. You can also find out more about the book. Thank you for linking the show notes there as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, if you could leave the mompreneurs of all the world with one last thing, what would you want a mompreneur to know that's listening today?
I would say be gentle on yourself, go easy on yourself. Don't be so harsh on yourself. I need to take my own advice as well, because it is, when we're in the grind, it can be, we're going, we're doing, we're trying to achieve all the things. So yeah, just, especially if you're in a season of change, just be gentle with yourself. Drop the judgment, maybe keep a journal or keep some notes, keep a log. So that would be my advice. Yeah, just go easy.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. I know people are going to love this episode, and they're going to be going to get your book. So congrats on authoring your first book. I'm really excited for you. And I definitely will stay in touch. And again, we'll put everything in the show notes for y'all that are listening, for you to connect with Kate. And thanks again for being vulnerable and just sharing your story with us today.
Thank you, Martina. I really appreciate it. Thank you. All
right, friends, we'll catch you on the next episode. And y'all know I'm believing in you always. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link, share this episode, or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.